everybody, it's Ellen from the Somerville Public Library. It's been a while, but finally back with another recipe for you. Today we're going to make a very simple chocolate cake. No eggs, no creaming butter and sugar, nothing like that. It's from an old article that I found in the Boston Globe magazine. And it makes a very large cake, like almost like a sheet cake size. But since I'm cutting it in half, we're just going to make a little cake. This is a 7 by 11 pan, I think, or so. Yeah, 11 by 7. You could also do it in a little square 8 by 8 or 9 by 9 pan. It makes a nice little cake. So for this cake, you're going to need these ingredients. The solid shortening is just for greasing the pan. You're going to grease and flour. Then you're going to need granulated sugar, all-purpose flour, cocoa, baking soda, baking powder, salt, some canola oil or other vegetable oil, a little bit of cider vinegar or some other kind of vinegar, vanilla, and also a cup of cold water. Okay, so the first thing you want to do is preheat the oven to 350. I already did that. And we're going to prepare the pan. I've got this Crisco here. The recipe specifies to use solid shortening, so I'm just going to go ahead and do that. I got a little bit on this paper towel, and I'm just going to rub it in the pan, get the bottom and the sides. I think it's probably okay to use like that spray stuff, but you know, since I had the shortening on hand and it actually calls for it, I figured I would just go ahead and do that. Okay, so the pan's all greased. Now I'm just going to take a little bit of flour and sprinkle it in, and I guess the reason we do this is to make sure we didn't miss any spots with the shortening. So I'm just going to tap out the extra, and there's your pan all greased and floured, ready to go. This next part is super easy. All you're going to do is add all the dry ingredients to the bowl. So for this half recipe, it's going to be 1 cup of granulated sugar, 2 cups of all-purpose flour, 1/4 cup of this unsweetened cocoa, it's not brain surgery, you don't have to be super exact. Half teaspoon each of baking soda and baking powder. Salt, 1/4 teaspoon of salt, I guess that's it for the dry ingredients. Then we're just going to stir it together. I'm going to make a little well in the center of these dry ingredients. Then we're going to add the wet ingredients, mix it all together, and that will pretty much be it. The liquid ingredients go in next. I have 1 cup of cold water, 3/8 of a cup of canola oil or some other kind of vegetable oil. This is instead of the butter. It makes the cake really moist and it keeps really well for several days. There is 1 tablespoon of vinegar, cider vinegar. You could use, you know, white vinegar or red vinegar if you have. I don't think it's going to make a huge difference. 1 tablespoon of that and 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. Then that just gets stirred together. till all the wet ingredients and dry ingredients are incorporated together. Makes a kind of stiff batter. And then it's ready to go into the pan and into the oven. This batter is thick enough that you're not really pouring it, you're spreading it. So try to get it even so you don't end up with thick spots and thin spots. And you can, I'll show you, just wet this with a little bit of water, and that can make the spreading easier if it starts to get sticky. I'm going to give it one little bang to settle any bubbles out of it and pop it into the oven. The recipe says to bake it for 35 to 40 minutes. This is a smaller cake, so I'm going to check it sooner than that. And it's done when, if you put a toothpick in it, you pull it out, there's nothing sticking to it, then you know your cake is done. While the cake is baking and cooling, we'll make the icing, which is a very simple thing. The only ingredients are butter, powdered sugar, salt, and a little bit of vanilla extract. I first learned about this icing from my friend Gina. She makes the best homemade cakes with icing, and whenever we would have a piece of her cake, we'd be like, oh my God, this is the best icing. And then finally one day she told me, it's just the recipe from the box of Domino powdered sugar. It's really good. I'm making a half recipe here. The full recipe calls for 2 sticks of butter and a whole box of confectioner sugar. This recipe is just going to be one stick of butter at room temperature and half a box of sugar, which is 1 3/4 cups of sugar. Then you just add a little pinch of salt and you beat it together until it is light and fluffy. Of course, it makes a huge mess. It's okay, we can clean that up later. Well, here it is. It didn't get light and fluffy like I said it would, because I forgot something, but it is all incorporated. And the thing that I forgot was that when it gets to this stage, you add a little bit of milk just to make it come together and get creamy. And you can just add it just a little bit at a time. So this is with a tiny bit of milk added in, maybe like a tablespoonful. It's starting to come together a bit. I'll add a little bit more. Starting to look more like icing now, frosting, whatever you want to call it. A little bit more milk. Now I'm going to add a little vanilla. I'll put in a teaspoonful. See what that definitely getting to be a frosting consistency now. I think it just needs the tiniest bit more milk, and then it'll be nice and spreadable. And that is it. That's the vanilla frosting. It doesn't look like much, but it's pretty much the perfect amount to spread on that cake that we're baking in an 11 by 7 inch pan. So once the cake comes out, we gotta let it cool completely, and then we'll put the icing on. So the cake is out of the oven. It's completely cooled. I've got the icing here, and I'm ready to frost the cake. It's kind of lumpy. I wonder if I maybe didn't mix it quite enough, but I think it's going to taste good anyway. So I'm spreading the icing roughly on the cake, and I've got a butter knife here and a glass of lukewarm water, which can be helpful. So this is getting the majority of it done. And then I'll switch over to this to finish it up. You just spread it. It doesn't need to be perfectly smooth. You can even, like, if you want, make little designs. And of course you can write on the cake if it's a birthday or something. You can decorate it with, you know, colored sugar or sprinkles or anything you want. It's a very simple cake, so there's a lot of ways you can put your own spin on it. Anyway, that is it. I'm gonna cut a piece, and you can see what it looks like inside. Cut a square of this. That's it. A very simple chocolate cake with vanilla frosting. If you wanted to make it completely vegan, you could skip this frosting that has butter in it and just sprinkle the top with powdered sugar. That would be a good thing too. So I'm going to say goodbye. Thank you for watching. Goodbye from me and from the Somerville Public Library.